Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming to our presentation and welcome to Mysterious World. Today, we will talk about Japanese legends and myths. Have you ever heard of any Japanese legends and myths? No. Thank you. They have become known since a long time ago. So they tell us what need to live, such as thinking, behavior, and faith. So they are taught that from them when we are children. So it is important to understand Japanese culture. Also, there are a lot of interesting stories. So if you are interested in that, it is our pleasure.
We will introduce 3 things. First, Mayu will talk about marvelous Japanese folk tales. Next, Midori will talk about an interesting Japanese creation mythical story. Finally, I will tell you about traditional Japanese animal gods. Let's go to a mysterious world!
Good evening. I'm Mayu. Before I start my presentation, I want to ask you a question. How many of you have ever read a Japanese folktale? Japan is very far from here, so sometimes it might be difficult to find a Japanese folktale, but Japanese folktales teach us a lot of values. So today, let me introduce to you marvelous Japanese folktale. Today, I would like to tell you 3 things. First is kamishibai. Next is the famous Japanese folktale, the tongue-cut sparrow. Finally, I will tell you the values of Japanese folktale. Let me start with kamishibai. Do you know what kamishibai is? Thank you. Kamishibai is a Japanese way of storytelling with pictures. Usually, it is used in kindergarten and elementary school. Sometimes, teachers tell the Japanese folktale to their children with kamishibai. Would you like to see a kamishibai? Thank you. Today, I brought one. This is one of the famous Japanese folktale, which is called the tongue-cut sparrow. So today, let me share with you this story. As I read this kamishibai, you can follow on the screen behind me. So let's get started. Once upon a time, there was an old and kind man and his very mean wife. They had a tiny sparrow that he loved and took care of. However, the old woman disliked it. One day, while the old man was outside, the old woman became very angry because he interrupted her work. So she took a pair of scissors and cut the sparrow's tongue off. Then the poor sparrow flew away. When the old man came home, the old woman said, "I cut the sparrow's tongue off," and he flew away. The old man was very sad. The next morning, the old man started to look for the sparrow. Then, suddenly the sparrow came to the old man and said, "Please come to my house," in a human voice. He followed the sparrow to his house. The sparrow prepared a big dinner for him. It started to get dark, and he said, "I have to go home." Then the sparrow brought 2 baskets. One is very big and heavy, but the other one is very small and light. "Please choose one for a souvenir," the sparrow said. Which one do you want to choose? The old man chose small one. When he went to the home, the old man told his wife what happened. When they opened the basket, It was full of wonderful things such as gold, diamonds, and coins. The old man was very happy, but the old woman was very angry. Why didn't you choose a big basket? I'm going to get a bigger one, she said. The next day, the old woman went and the sparrow invited her into the house. Before she left the home, the sparrow also brought a big basket and a small basket. The old woman instantly grabbed the big basket. On the way to home, the old woman opened the basket. Then, what do you think is inside of the box? All kinds of bad things jumped out, such as bees, snakes, and monsters. The old woman ran as fast as she could. After that, she said, I promise I never be mean or greedy again. The old woman became very kind. The end. What is the value of this story? It is said that Japanese folktales have a lot of great values, but today I would like to introduce to you two values. First is, what is good or bad? For example, in this story, the old woman cut the sparrow's tongue off. It is really bad things, right? So, it's a good opportunity for children to think about morals, what is good or bad. Another important point is, your action will affect your future. Japanese believe if you do something good, you will be rewarded in the future. However, if you do something bad, you will be punished. In this story, the old man was very kind, so he could get jewels. However, the old woman was very selfish, so she received bad things. Japanese children can learn that they should behave well. In conclusion, Japanese folktales teach us a lot of great values. These tales are passed down verbally or through kamishibai from generation to generation. These Japanese folktales is a good way to show and keep Japanese spirits, values, and traditions. Today, I talked about Japanese folktales. I hope I can share with you Japanese values through this topic. Thank you for listening. Next presenter is Midori.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayu, for sharing with us Japanese folktale. Your kamishibai was very wonderful. Hello, my name is Midori. Today, I would like to talk about an interesting Japanese creation mystical story. This story comes from Kojiki. It is a history book about Japan, including many Japanese mystical stories. This story has a big influence on Shintoism, Japanese religious culture, and spiritual culture. Also, this story does not only tell a story, but also hide a message. This story I'll read and tell us three things. First, the creation of Japan. Second, the creation of Japanese gods. Finally, the land of the dead. Let's begin the story. In the beginning, there was darkness. In the middle of this darkness was a very large egg containing all things. Slowly over many years, the lighter and pure part drew away from the heavier and denser part. The heavy material dropped to form the earth. The lighter part rose to form the heavens. This was called Takamagahara in Japan. The other side was hell. This was called Yomi in Japan. There are two gods that created Japan. They are Izanami and Izanagi. Izanami was the god of creation and death. Izanagi was the god of all good things. As you can see, Izanami and Izanagi crossed the bridge from heaven. This bridge, called Ame no Ukihashi in Japan. It is connected to Takamagahara and this world. They stood on that and created Onogoro Island at first from this bridge. How did they create Onogoro Island? They dipped a spear into the ocean. The first drop of water from the spear created Onogoro Island. Then they stood on that Onogoro Island and created Japan, group of islands, including the main island of Japan. This was called Kuni-umi in Japan. I'll tell you about the creation of God. This story is after creating island. They gave birth to many gods. They gave birth to a lot of gods about nature, such as wind, sea, trees, and mountains. They gave birth to 35 gods in Onogoro Island. But when Izanami gave birth to god of fire, she was heavily burned, so she died. This is believed the first of death of the world. So Izanagi was very angry and very sad, so he killed god of fire. Finally, I'll tell you about the land of the dead. This was called Yomi in Japan. It was kind of hell. When she died, she went to Yomi. So Izanagi tried to save her from Yomi. When he went to Yomi, he could hear from entrance, but he couldn't see her. So he said that he wanted her come back to Takamagahara. So she tried to come back, but she had to ask for permission to leave Yomi. So he had to wait for her. But when he was waiting for her, she said to him that he shouldn't enter in Yomi. So he tried to wait for her for a long time, but he didn't enter. So he looked in Yomi. He saw that she became a lifeless corpse, so she was very angry and chased him. So he escaped from her. So he couldn't bring her back to Takamagahara. This caused the complete division of dead world and living world. In conclusion, I talked about three things: the creation of Japan, the creation of many gods, the separation of Izanagi and Izanami. Japanese gods and mystical stories are very interesting and very important for understanding the beginning of Japan. So if you are interested in that, please read Japanese mystical stories. Thank you for listening. Next co-presenter is Chie.
Midori, thank you for sharing with us Japanese creation mythology. Hello, my name is Chie. Today, I will tell you about traditional Japanese animal gods. Do you know about Japanese animal gods? No. So, I will tell you about three things. First, history of Japanese animal gods. Then we learn about Komainu, one of the Japanese animal gods. Finally, I will tell you about Yatakuro is another Japanese animal god. Let's begin the first topic, history of Japanese animal gods. Japanese animal gods are the messenger of Japanese gods. They came from the ancient Orient through China to Japan. In Shintoism, Japanese gods don't appear to humans, so Japanese animal gods tell us messages instead of Japanese gods. So people believe that Japanese animal gods have close relationship with Japanese gods. Also, there are many kinds of animal gods. For example, there are rabbits, turtles, monkeys, dragons, and deer. As you can see, each animal god has different meaning because they are the messengers of each god. Let's move on to the next topic, Komainu. Komainu are the one of Japanese animal gods and the most famous Japanese animal gods. Komainu is a pair. Pair of Komainu statues are usually placed at the gate of Shinto shrines as guardians. They protect the shrine from evil. Next, let me introduce A-un. As you can see, one of Komainu mouths open and the other closed. It represents ending and beginning of the word. A is the first sound in Sanskrit. Un is the last sound in Sanskrit. As I mentioned before, they came from the ancient Orient, so that's why Sanskrit is used for statues. Besides, Komainu are really diverse. For example, this statue is wearing a hat. This statue is putting its front feet on a ball. This statue has a unique shape. Let's talk about the oldest Komainu statues. They are made of wood in 12th century. They are still placed at Taiho Shrine in Shiga Prefecture. In addition, they are designated to National Cultural Property, so that's why they still keep good condition. Finally, let me introduce Yatakuro. Yatakuro is another Japanese animal god, and there is an interesting mythology. Yatakuro was served by Amaterasu, who is the son of God, and Yatakuro guided Emperor Jimmu, who is first Japanese emperor, from Kumano to Yamato safely around 300 AD. So, Yatakuro is believed to show us right path for our life. Also, Yatakuro has 3 legs. Each leg represents sky, land, and humans. In other words, sky means God, land means environment, and humans represent people. 3 legs represent God, environment, and people work together. Moreover, Yatakuro is used for Japan Football Association logo. This name is football, but football means soccer. They use this symbol now. In 2018, they will use a new symbol because they wanted to look better than before. In conclusion, Japanese animal gods are essential to Japanese culture, and they can be many kinds of animals. Also, they still affect Japanese culture. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Chie. Japanese animal gods are unique and quite fascinating, aren't they? In closing, today I talked about importance of Japanese folktale. Midori shared with us miraculous Japanese mythology. Chie, we learned essential Japanese animal gods from Chie. These stories are foundation of Japanese identity. Since we believe these stories, we think we should not do bad things. We need to be kind and to be modest. These stories teach us good morals, behaviors, and values. In Japan, we have a lot of good, interesting stories. We hope this presentation was a good opportunity for you to gain an interest in Japanese myths and legends. Thank you for listening.